Welcome movie enthusiasts to Movie Logic Explained, your ultimate destination for unraveling the mysteries, hidden meanings, and fascinating details behind your favorite films. So grab your popcorn, subscribe, and let's dive into the captivating universe of Movie Logic Explained together. Let the movie magic begin. Today, I will provide a summary of the highly emotional adventure film titled The Call of the Wild, which delivers a message of loyalty, courage, and resilience, teaching us a lesson in humanity. In the late 19th century, the movie takes place in Yukon, a region in northwest Canada that is believed to be rich in gold. People from all over the world flock to Yukon in search of this treasure, braving the snowy mountains. Many of them rely on large dogs to help carry their belongings. The main character of the movie is Buck, a mix between a Saint Bernard and a Scotch Collie. Buck lives in Santa Clara, California with his owner, Judge Miller, and his family. He is a lively and gentle dog who is adored and pampered by everyone in town. Buck's size sets him apart from other dogs and makes him famous. On the judge's birthday, Buck goes to the market with the housemaid and ends up chasing a cyclist through the streets. A man notices Buck and plans to kidnap him and sell him for money. When Buck returns home, the cooks hide all the delicious food to prevent him from destroying it. Judge Miller sends Buck outside so he won't ruin the lunch. Later, the family gathers in the front yard for a picture, but Buck reaches the table before anyone else and ruins the meal. The judge, who always indulges Buck, becomes very angry and leaves him outside the house at night. The stranger from the market calls Buck over and captures him in a box. The man receives money from someone and sends Buck away in a horse-drawn cart. Buck tries to bark and call for his master, but it is in vain. Eventually, he is loaded onto a train and taken far away from his home. The next day, a man opens the box, and Buck tries to escape, but the man beats him down. Buck realizes that fighting back will only bring him more harm, so he sits quietly beside the man. There are multiple other dogs confined in cages, as the cages are not spacious enough for Buck. The man fastens him to a pole and exits. Buck seizes the opportunity to snap the rope and liberate himself. He swiftly dashes outside, but his joy is short-lived when he realizes he is on a ship. The ship halts upon reaching Yukon, Canada. The place is teeming with people in search of the rumored gold. Nevertheless, none have ever succeeded in finding the treasure. Buck, who has resided in the arid lands of California his entire life, struggles to walk in the snow. He becomes captivated when it begins to snow. He breaks free from the rope fastened to his neck and frolics around the bustling area joyfully. Unlike his hometown, people here become irritated when Buck collides with them. One of the many individuals seeking gold is an elderly man named John Thornton. Buck accidentally bumps into John, but unlike the others, the man does not scold him. Buck notices that he has dropped his harmonica and returns it to him. John is impressed by Buck's intelligence, but before he can converse with him, Buck's owner takes him away. Subsequently, Buck is kept for sale alongside other dogs. He is the largest and heaviest among them all. He attempts to make friends, but the dogs do not appear interested. Then, a French-Canadian mail runner named Perrault purchases Buck for a dog sled to transport mail across the Yukon. He introduces Buck to his partner Francois, who remarks that he is larger than the dog they desired. Buck then encounters the remaining dogs from the sled. They are led by the fierce pack leader, a husky named Spitz. Perrault has never managed to deliver any mail punctually, but with Buck, he hopes to reach the mail depot before the deadline. Although the dogs do not comprehend, Perrault provides them with a briefing about the 500-mile-long journey they are about to embark on to pull the load. Buck is fastened with a collar that he is fond of. Finally, the journey commences, and the dogs begin to run. However, unfamiliar with the snowy terrain, Buck struggles to keep up with the others. He manages to grasp the concept, but his attention is diverted by a rabbit halfway through, causing the sled to veer off course. Buck changes direction and plummets off a cliff, taking the entire cart with him. Spitz growls at him for his foolish mistake, but Perrault encourages Buck to continue with the pack. By the end of the day, Buck is utterly exhausted. Finally, they find respite in the evening at a camp. Buck is unsure of how to sleep in the snow and feels extremely cold. He tries to snuggle up to his new master, Francois, but is chased out. Suddenly, he spots a magnificent black wolf. This wolf is his guardian angel, who will guide him throughout their journey. The next day, Running becomes more challenging as they encounter a slippery icy terrain. At night, each dog is given one fish for dinner. The leader spits, threatens a dog, and takes away his share. Buck selflessly gives his fish to the Pua dog and walks away. The other dogs witness this act of kindness and look at Buck with admiration. One day, after a long day of work, the dogs are thirsty, but Spitz refuses to let them drink from a small puddle. Buck breaks a piece of ice to create a puddle for the others. This act earns him the respect of the other dogs, much to Spitz's anger. As time goes on, Buck learns how to run efficiently in the snow, making the sled move faster than ever before. Eventually, they come across a frozen lake that they must cross. Francois goes to check for cracks in the ice but accidentally falls in. Perrault rushes to save her, but Buck beats him to it. He jumps into the lake and reaches Francois, but becomes lost in the icy depths. Just then, the Black Wolf appears and shows Buck the way to the surface. Buck manages to bring Francois to safety. Perrault loses sight of Buck and becomes anxious, but Buck reappears beside him moments later. Perrault embraces Buck while Spitz watches them with envy. Later that night, Francois, Buck, and Perrault gather around the fire and engage in conversation. Francois informs Buck that Perrault's sole desire in life is to deliver the letters to the mail depot on time. She emphasizes that Perrault truly believes in Buck's ability to help fulfill this dream. Meanwhile, Spitz observes their conversation from a distance and allows jealousy to consume him. Later, he confronts Buck in front of the pack and viciously attacks him. Buck eventually collapses from exhaustion. The rest of the pack is too afraid to stand up to Spitz, but one dog barks at Buck, urging him to get up and fight. Motivated by the noise, Buck rises to his feet, determined to retaliate. In a matter of seconds, he knocks Spitz down. The other dogs celebrate Buck's victory as Spitz silently retreats from the pack. The following day, when their owners awaken, they discover that Spitz is missing. Without wasting any time, they decide to continue their journey. Buck assumes the role of the pack's new leader, but Perrault insists on appointing another dog. He attempts to fasten the collar around the dog's neck, but the dog refuses. Since the pack has already accepted Buck as their leader, Perrault quietly places the collar on him. They proceed on their journey at an even faster pace, but they encounter a snowstorm midway. Perrault instructs Buck to turn left, but Buck spots his guardian on the right side and realizes they must go right. Disregarding Perrault's command, Buck leads them in the correct direction, saving everyone from the snow. After some time, they finally arrive at the mail depot on schedule. Perrault is overjoyed to distribute the letters to the recipients. In one of the cabins, John Thornton writes a letter to his wife, reminiscing about their late son. When John hands the letter to be delivered, he recognizes Buck. Perrault receives a letter revealing that the mail route will be replaced by the telegraph, rendering his services unnecessary. Reluctantly, he sells the dogs to a shop, leaving Buck without a master. However, a man named Hal takes an interest in the dogs and purchases them to use for carrying luggage. He secures the dogs to a sled loaded with numerous bags and a woman. The dogs are overwhelmed by the long wait, but Hal refuses to give up. He asks his brother-in-law Charles to discipline the dogs, but John intervenes and advises against starting the journey due to an approaching snowstorm. Ignoring John's advice, Hal forces the dogs to pull the heavy luggage. The dogs quickly become exhausted and collapse under the weight, which infuriates Hal even more. He pulls out a gun, intending to shoot Buck, but John stops him once again. Hal, enraged, leaves Buck with John and continues the trip with the other dogs. John takes Buck home and cares for him while they are at the bar in the evening. Hal confronts John, blaming him for the dogs running away. Buck comes to his master's defense and returns home with him. The next day, John shares the story of his late son and his desire to explore an uncharted place. He invites Buck to join him on the journey. They embark on a rowboat and travel for several days before returning to John's house. Hal discovers the map and realizes that John and Buck have gone in search of gold. Meanwhile, John and Buck abandon the damaged boat and continue on foot. After many days, they finally reach an old cabin. That night, Buck hears the howling of wolves from the woods, but John assures him that they are his ancestors. The next day, while bathing in the river, John discovers a piece of gold, finally uncovering the treasure of Yukon that everyone seeks. Buck spots a white wolf running towards the woods and decides to follow her. He tries to befriend her, but she runs away in fear. The following day, Buck observes the wolf pack from a distance. One of the wolves falls into the river while hunting, but Buck saves it. At the last moment, the pack accepts Buck as one of their own and welcomes him into their group. Buck has finally found his true home, and John recognizes this as well. Upon witnessing Buck's reunion with his family, John makes the difficult decision to return to his own. He communicates to the loyal dog that their paths will now diverge. With a heavy heart, Buck bids his final farewell to John and sadly walks away to rejoin his pack. However, under the cover of darkness, Hal launches a vicious attack on John and sets his cabin ablaze, driven by a thirst for revenge. In the midst of their struggle, John sustains a gunshot wound to his abdomen. Just as Hal is about to deliver the fatal blow, Buck finally comes to his master's rescue. Seizing Hal, Buck hurls him into the engulfed cabin, putting an end to his malevolence once and for all. Buck then settles beside the gravely injured John, faithfully remaining by his side as he draws his last breath. The following day, a white wolf arrives to collect Buck, leading him away into the depths of the forest. As time passes, Buck establishes a family with the white wolf, becoming a leader of the pack and imparting upon his offspring the importance of courage in the face of fear. Buck has now become the master of his own destiny. Enjoying the cinematic journey so far? Don't miss out on the next blockbuster breakdown. Hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you're loving the content. Share it with your fellow cinephiles, and don't forget to ring that bell. Subscribe, like, share, and ring that bell. Let's make every movie moment count together.